So, hey everyone, welcome to today's session of the Single Mom Faith Summit, turning your pain and setbacks and trials into purpose. And so I'm super excited to have Lindsey Vertner here with us today for this session called Walking Confidently into Purpose. And so, look, like she is one of the most confident people I know. Like when you look at her Instagram feed, it literally oozes confidence. Like Lindsey literally oozes confidence from her pores. And so I'm just like, can I borrow a little bit of that? But anyway, it's so inspiring. It's really so inspiring. And I've had the privilege of collaborating with her on the First Class Life devotional. And it was just an amazing experience being able to bring some stuff out of me that I would have rather left hidden. And truth be told, certain things that kept me from walking in purpose, she really helped me to get it on paper and move past it, because you never really know. You can be early on in your healing journey or further along, but there are still things that you're continuously going to have to confront, uproot, and replace in order to continue to walk in purpose. And this is why I'm super excited to have Lindsey here today, because, and I'm not going to steal her thunder, but when I tell you her story, it is powerful. But the first time I heard it, I'm like, how did you get back up from that? And so as the God started to reveal the purpose behind this summit, he was starting to show me that there are so many experiences that many of us go through that are designed to take us out. And if we think that we cannot get back up from, but the devil is a liar, right? He is a liar, because there is nothing that you can't do without God. And this is why I wanted so much for Lindsey to be here, because I'm not even going to steal her thunder, because I felt about to start telling her story. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I just love me some you. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Lindsey, can you please let us know what it is that you do and how it is that you got to this place?
yes, so I am a mindset expert and transformational speaker, and I coach high achieving women who struggle with things like perfectionism, overthinking, doubt, to increase their clarity, confidence, connections, and cash flow. That is my jam. It's my purpose. I've been able to overcome those things, and that's what I do the work living, just helping women around the world to essentially create their first class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And so the way where you started is like very different from where you are. And so one of the things that I know about you is you went through a car accident where the people at the scene said you were brain dead and that you were dead. But clearly you're not a ghost. You are alive and kicking. Like, how did you bounce back from that? Can you just share that story?
You want me to give you the details, or you want me to give you the details of the story?
I wanted the way you told it when I was on your daily devotional call, and I was sitting here like, she was dead, and she's alive, and she's not Jesus.
Yes. So here's what happened. I'm gonna share the story with y'all. Okay. So one day I found myself waking up in complete darkness. I had no clue where I was. I couldn't see anything except the moonlight shining through an unfamiliar window. I went to move and I couldn't move. I went to call out and I couldn't speak. And so I don't know about y'all, but in my head, I watched too many movies. So in that moment, I figured I was just tied up in some psycho's basement and he was waiting to torture me. And so I start to panic because I didn't know what else to do. I'm laying here, it's completely dark. I can't see, I can't move, I can't like do anything. And so I'm panicking so much that eventually I exhaust myself out to the point where I passed out. And the next time that I woke up, I thought to myself, like, man, that was the craziest nightmare. I'll never want to experience it again. And I slowly realized that I still didn't know where I was, still couldn't see, still couldn't speak, and still couldn't move. The only thing that had changed was now the sun was shining through that same window that I knew wasn't mine. But before I could panic again, I heard voices and a lady walks up to me and she starts asking me questions. And I'm thinking that I'm answering her, but in reality, it's only noises coming out of my mouth because there was a tube going down my throat, keeping me alive. So it turns out this lady is my nurse, and she proceeds to tell me that an entire week earlier, on May 13, 2007, the car I was driving went off the opposite side of the highway, flipped multiple times before landing upside down. My head was pinned between the ground and the entire weight of the car on top of me. I was cut from the car and immediately pronounced brain dead on the scene. But God, because despite that, they placed me in a helicopter and lifelined me to a trauma hospital where, again, by a new set of medical professionals, I was pronounced brain dead upon arrival. But God, because despite that, yet again, they proceeded to do emergency surgeries and they only placed me on life support until my family could be contacted, but they didn't even expect my body to survive through that. So that is the shortest version of the story. 1 minute, I'm minding my business, driving home from visiting my mother on Mother's Day. And the next, I'm waking up to being told that not only had I been brain dead for the past week, but on top of a long list of injuries, I was also paralyzed. Brain dead and paralyzed. And
But
that's
you
the
can walk.
story.
And when you look at her, you see she can walk.
I can walk.
And so that is a lot. And so one of the things that I've actually noticed, especially with medical conditions, especially with things that people say that we can and cannot do, we tend to take the expert's opinion and diagnosis as gospel truth. And then we could end up becoming like that. So you could have easily said, okay, at this point, you're paralyzed. That's what they said. So you could have easily bought into that and never learn how to walk again. Like you were told that you were brain dead. You could have easily fallen into the trap of thinking that there was no more life in you and that you would never be able to live life to the fullest potential, let alone impact thousands. So how is it that you got from who they said that you were going to be and what your future was going to look like to where you are now? Because like I feel like I'm not just talking about your accident, because there are people who have been told their entire lives that they were never going to be anything. There are people who were told that they were stupid or they couldn't speak or they were just going to be just like their dad or just like their mom, or you're never going to amount to anything, and too often people buy into that.
Yep.
So get to that place where you said, I hear you, but I'm gonna do something different.
So as I was laying there and I'm listening to all of these things being told to me, the first thing I could think was, one, thank God I'm alive. And I realized in that moment that I could either be a victim to my circumstances, which unfortunately a lot of people choose to do, or I could be a victor over my obstacles. And as you can see, because I'm sitting here in front of you, I chose the latter. But here's the thing, when we are stuck in victim mode, we give up our power for change. That's whenever we're taking on those words of other people, we're taking on the situations that we find ourselves in. So I actually developed what I call a first class life. And it's not just a cutesy phrase, but it's actually an acronym for the skills and characteristics that we want to embody into our lifestyle as much as possible to create the life that we desire, a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. And so the very first thing that I had to do in that moment was be faithful. And no matter what your spiritual beliefs are, it is important that we are faithful, that we believe in something outside of ourselves, that we believe in something bigger than ourselves, that we trust that no matter what I find myself in, no matter what is happening, it will work out for my good. It's been done in science and it's been done in scripture. In scripture, there's Romans 8:28 that says all things work together for my good according to his will. In science, there was a 1950 study at Johns Hopkins University that says whenever we have hope that things will work out, we increase our chances of survival during life-threatening situations by 60%. 60%. And so the very first thing, I had faith. I had faith that God kept me here for a reason. I had faith that I would make a full recovery. And so it didn't matter what the doctors were saying, because they were wrong twice before already, for sure, because here I was breathing alive and they had pronounced me dead on multiple occasions, but yet here I was. So that was one evidence that I might not need to listen to you. I'll take what you're saying into consideration, but I had faith that God had something bigger for my life, and I trusted that it included a full recovery. I didn't know how, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know what, or anything. I just had faith that I was to make a full recovery. And I held on to that with all my might, and that in the end, it was going to work out. So step number one, you must be faithful.
And so then how do you keep going? And so one of the things, I teach Bible study. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching, so I'm teaching on Romans 28. I'm teaching on Hebrews 10. Like, we have to hold on to hope unswervingly. And I'm like defining unswerving, like gripping, trying to prove, trying to make the point. And then someone asked me, it was a very profound question. She said, how do you hold on to hope? And how do you hold on to faith when everything you have seen in your entire life goes against it and is bad? But you want better, but you have no evidence that this has ever been the case in your life. And so that was powerful to me, because I'm thinking, like, all of us at least have one thing that
Mm-hmm.
we on and see, I can hold on to hope. But what would you say to that person who's been like, you don't know my story?
Mm-hmm.
I hear you talking about hope. I hear you talking about faith, but I'm just trying to make it day by day. Like, what do I do?
Yes, yes. Sometimes we have to make ourselves uncomfortable, especially when we don't have the evidence around us. Whenever, like, maybe our family or friends that are around us are always negative or contrary to the things that we desire, when we are growing up in situations or backgrounds that are contrary to the things that we desire. The fact that you even hope for more is proof that there is more, because where would that come from if you didn't know that it exists? So there's that fact right there. And so just holding on to that image of I want more, and then having the faith that as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, that more is going to come to me. So there's multiple factors of this, right? So first you have to be faithful. And then the second thing you have to be is intentional. Very intentional with your thoughts, what you're speaking, how you're behaving, because all of those things are going to attract the life that you are living. So there's a saying that the life you live right now is a result of the thoughts you had 5 years ago. And so you have to ask yourself, what am I telling myself? If I'm telling myself there is no hope, then that's exactly what you're going to live. But if I'm telling myself, oh, there is better for me out there, if I just keep holding on, like, eventually that's going to start to come into fruition. So I had no clue how I was going to walk, or if I could even walk again. According to my medical team, it was looking real bleak. They didn't expect me to walk again. They didn't expect me to go back to school. They thought my personality would be different. Like, I would wake up a completely different person if I woke up. Those are things they were actually telling my family and friends. Like, if she wakes up, she might be a completely different person. But essentially I wasn't. And so I had to ignore what they were talking about. I had to ignore that what I saw with my physical eyes and what I heard with my ears in the right now. And I had to look beyond that. And that's a message right there, because oftentimes we get consumed by the things we immediately see surrounding us. And we have to have enough fight and enough vision to say, I'm going to look past what I see with my natural eye, and I'm going to create the vision that I want for my life. And so in creating that vision, it's part of being intentional that I want to buy a house, being intentional that I want to be debt free, being intentional that I want a healthy, positive, loving relationship, being intentional that I want to start a business. Whatever your intentions are for you, you have to see it crystal clear in your brain first. see every single piece of it, feel it, imagine yourself actually living it out and think about that every single day. Because the more you think about it, it subconsciously starts to change your thoughts. It subconsciously starts to change how you speak about your life. And that subconsciously starts to change your behaviors in subtle ways. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not like some grand gesture like, oh my gosh, I did this one big grand thing and now it's completely different. No, it is very subtle. You likely won't really notice it, and the people around you definitely won't notice it until a year later and you're in a completely different spot. Then they're like, you changed, and you're like, looking back, you know what? I did change. So that's what I had to do. I was intentional. I said, I want to walk again by any means necessary. I have faith that God is going to allow me to walk again by any means necessary. Again, I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know any of the details. I only had the vision and the faith. And that's what I held on to. So despite the evidence around me and what I could see with my logical eyes, that's what I held on to. Walking without a wheelchair, without a cane, without a walker, without assistance, I was crystal clear that I wanted to walk on my own. So that was step 2.
That's powerful. Okay, guys, do you get your all access replay? Because I'm sitting here like, I want to re-listen to this again. So definitely get your all access replay, because you don't want to miss these nuggets, because Lindsey's interview is only going to be available until the next one starts. So you don't want to miss these nuggets, and you want to be able to look at this and listen to this and take notes over and over and over and over again, because what she's saying is that your vision matters. And you can't just look with your physical eyes. You have to look with your eyes of faith. You have to be able to activate that faith to hold on to that belief when nothing makes sense and nothing around you confirms the thing that God has already put in your heart. And so you need to be able to internalize this message. So, yes. So, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, you brought up about how your family was prepared for the potential of you being a totally different person when you woke up. So, a question that I have for you is, were you always this confident? Were you always this clear? Or was there something about the accident that really activated your purpose and activated who was already inside of you?
So I've always been kind of an outgoing leader type of person. However, what I thought was a good life actually was nothing compared to the life that I was destined and purposed to live. So oftentimes we fall into this pattern where we think we're doing all the good things, we think we're living just fine. But when we truly start walking in our purpose, then it's like, whoa, wait, how was I living before? Because this is a complete change. And so it magnified. And when we are operating at our maximum potential, every single thing that we do is impacted. Every single person connected to us is impacted. And so the wreck actually brought out fully who I was destined to be. It's kind of like you're walking in the shadow of yourself, but you don't realize you're walking in the shadow because you see the sun.
Yeah.
But then it's like, once it clicks and things start falling into place, then it's like, oh my goodness, wait, I am the sun and I'm destined to be brighter than what I previously was doing.
That is fascinating, because one of the things that so many people are conditioned to do is to run from pain. We try and avoid pain at all costs. Not to say that we should want to run full force into pain and suffering. No, I don't think anybody wants that. But I think that we can live a life so cautiously with the intention to avoid pain, trials, and setbacks without recognizing that those things are part of life. They happen whether we want to or not. But this is where the faith comes in, that we have to be able to stand on the fact that God will turn everything for our good, even the pain, the setbacks, and the trials. And as I hear you talking about your accident and your recovering, it refined you, it sharpened you, it gave you a whole new perspective on life. It really gave you um, a purpose to run towards, and a desire to not only just use it for you to live a first class life, but to teach other people how to activate their own first class life. So this has truly come full circle into like a full on like transformational a transformation for you, but then the people connected with you. And so, what would you say to someone who is still in that space where they're looking at their pain and their setbacks and their trials, and they're really struggling? And I know I shared this in my book, like in the chapter with the book that for the chapter I contributed to First Class Life. It's like I was in that place of pain where I could not move past that place of pain, even though the Lord was showing me, like, here is how I have already redeemed it. Here is how I'm redeeming it more. Here is how I've covered you and protected you in this. All I could see was the pain. And so, what would you say to somebody who's kind of still at that place where they're like, I see that there's hope, but this is just so hard to get back up again? They're literally stuck in the pain.
That's easy. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. The things that you focus on, you attract more of into your life. And that's very counterintuitive. So when you're constantly focused on the pain, you attract more pain. You surround yourself with more pain. And then that's all you find yourself living in is pain. And so you have to, again, be intentional about what it is that you desire for your life and focus on that. Because if we're constantly focused on the pain and the problems, then we're never able to see the solution and the joy and the things that come after that. So look, we can do this quick exercise, okay? So everybody watching, I need for you to take your left hand, okay? And then put it, let me see, can I scoot back? But I won't stand up. I might got panties on under here, but take your left hand and put it straight down below you. Like just extend your arm straight out, not bent at all. And then take your right hand and put it straight up above you, okay? Now look up at your right hand. Can you see your left hand that is down below you? Absolutely not, unless you have some physical deformity that has your eyeballs in weird spaces. You cannot see your right hand and your left hand at the same time because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You can't see the left and the right at the same. You can't look at the positives and the negatives the same. You can't look up and down at the same. You can't go in and out at the same time. You have to pick one, commit to that choice, and focus on it. And so whenever you are stuck in that pain, you have to say, I'm going to focus on the solution. I'm going to focus on my joy. I'm going to focus on my happiness. I'm going to focus on things that I do have to be grateful for. For example, yes, I was paralyzed. Yes, I had all these cuts and scars and scrapes all over me. But rather than focusing on, oh, woe is me, I'm never going to walk again, I said, I can see. Like, even though I couldn't directly see my surroundings, I've worn glasses since the first grade. Glasses are contacts. So I literally couldn't see. Everything was blurry, but I didn't go blind. Despite all of the head injury I had, I didn't go blind. Despite a cut in my ear, I didn't lose my hearing. Despite like all of these different things, I was still alive. So rather than focusing on what was lost momentarily or maybe permanently, I focused on what I still had. So you have to say those things. All right, I might not have the money for all of my bills, but I'm grateful that I am able to purchase dinner today. I'm grateful that I'm able to pay my light bill. I might not have the new iPhone or the new Samsung Galaxy, but I'm grateful that I have a cell phone. So you have to be grateful for what you do have, because when you focus on gratitude, then you attract more things to be thankful for. And whenever you are focused on the solutions, on the positive, and let me be clear, there is a such thing as toxic positivity, when we're just like, nothing bad ever happens, because that's not how it works, okay? We're all human. We all go through things, but the difference between those that are successful and those that are not is how we deal with the obstacles and the pain that we're going through. So give yourself 5 moments to feel the pain and then release it. Release it however you need to release it, whether that's through therapy, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through traveling, whether that's through taking a bubble bath, however you need to release that pain, release it and focus on the positives, because we can't create logical solutions from emotional places. And when we're stuck in the pain, we're very emotional. When we're stuck in the pain, we're victimized. And I already said earlier, whenever you are stuck in victim mode, you give up your power for change, and that makes you feel hopeless. So we have to snatch back our power, step out of victim mode, and focus on the positives. And we then attract more things to be grateful for. And we're able to see, oh, wait, I was busy looking left, but here are the tools and resources I need on the right, because now I'm focused over here on the right. Because they can go right past us. And because we're so focused on the pain, we ignore them, we dismiss them, we minimize them, we don't recognize it as the solution to our problem.
That's a whole word right there. I'm doing those love Jones naps. That is so good. That is so powerful. And literally, if people understand this, then they can transform their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no limitation. The only limitations are the limitations we put on ourselves. And the reason why I love that you just said all of this, like what you just taught today is transformational, because, and this is, it's so interesting because we've had so many talks about this. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do a single mom ministry. And the Lord was just like, okay, Jonah, I see you, but this is what you're going to do. And I'm just laughing right now to myself, because it's like what I'm running from, and what I was running from is the very thing that the Lord is using to give hope to other people, to help them to understand that they don't have to be defined by society standards. Because I'm like, Lord, like if I do this whole single mom thing, like, I'm just going to continue to remind myself I'm a single mom, and he left and I'm doing this on my own, and you know what society says about single moms and kids as single moms, and I'm just like, I just don't want to do it. I just don't even want to think about it. And he was just like, but you don't have to. Who said you had to believe that? Who said that you had to define yourself by that? And I'm like, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, and then the funny thing is, I used to tell him, I'm like, well, I don't even feel like a single mom. Why are you telling me to do the single mom ministry? He was just like, that's why. Because you don't look at yourself as a single mom. So you don't define yourself by what society says is a single mom. And because of that, you're not limiting yourself and pigeonholing yourself into a corner about who you would be and who your kids would be and who they will become because you're a single mom. And I need you to tell other people that same message.
Listen.
And so I'm loving what
that is so good. And I love that you said you don't define yourself as a single mom like society says, because that's important. Because here's the thing, after I survived, because I actually was in the hospital for a month, and there were multiple news articles that were written about me. And the very first one was front page news, and big headline said, "Miracle on the highway." It crossed the whole front cover. And then it said, "Woman believed dead is now alive in Indianapolis hospital." And so that article stemmed Miracle Woman and Walking Miracle were two nicknames that I was dubbed. And see, I didn't feel good enough to be that person. And so I kind of went on this superwoman syndrome path where I was trying to live up to the expectations of other people. And oftentimes we do that in life, especially as women, especially as mothers. We try to live up to the expectations of our parents, of our spouses, if we have them, of our children, of our family, of our friends, of our colleagues, our coworkers, our supervisors, our clients, whomever we are surrounded by, the expectations of other people. And I had to shed those expectations and not listen to any of that, because it was affecting me emotionally. It was affecting my emotional health. And instead, I had to listen to who God called me to be, period, point blank. not even to my own expectations of who I thought I should be, because sometimes we put unnatural pressure up on ourselves a little bit more than we should. So sometimes we even have to ignore ourselves a little bit. And I instead focused on, who does God want me to be? Who does God expect me to be? And that's the only thing that I need to live up to right now. And that's whenever things really started to shift.
Now that is good. Who does God want me to be, and who does God expect me to be? And I love it that you said you even had to tune out yourself,
Mhm.
because that's a whole nother topic. Where our own thoughts come from. So sometimes we do have, a lot of times, have to tune out ourselves. But this is so good. And I just love how the Lord has really just took something that literally could have taken you out. And what I just heard, the scripture where he says, the Lord makes the dry bones live again or breathe again. Like, literally, you were pronounced dead. But not only are you not dead, you are like a walking testimony for God's grace and mercy, and how he can literally take dead situations and make them alive, and not just make them alive, but to birth purpose and just do wonderful and glorious things through those things. And so I truly hope that the women who are listening and watching this interview really see that he is no respecter of persons. Like, if he can take what someone else declared dead and breathe life into it, then he can do it for all of us. Like, he can take that relationship that failed, that you thought that you couldn't live without, he can bring it new life through you without it. Like, whatever dreams that you thought died because you're a single mom, they did not die, they just took on a different form. And if you allow the Lord to breathe life into you, he will allow you to grow into who you are supposed to be, because he did that with me. Right? I remember when I was a child, my grandma used to tell me, my grandma used to tell me that if you get married, then no, if you have kids, all your hopes and dreams will be flushed. And she used to do that down the toilet. She said that's what happens when you have kids, that your hopes and dreams will be flushed down the toilet. So imagine how I felt. I'm a single mom of twins. I just quit my job to become a full-time entrepreneur. I, and so what do you think the first thought that came to mind was when I thought hopes and dreams are going to be flushed to the toilet? So my pregnancy, I would never have, and I'll never be a purpose, because that's what my. So now that was motherhood. She was married and I'm a single mom. And so when I tell you that the Lord breathed life into my purpose, and he brought what I thought was going to be dead and made it alive, he can do that through you. And so I just hope that what you took from this is that you can take your pain, your setbacks, your trial, anything, and turn it into the purpose, because the Lord is the one who's the giver of life. He can breathe life into those dry bones. You can live again. You can have purpose. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what you tell yourself. What matters is what God says. And that's
Yes.
it. So I am so happy that you have joined. This has been so powerful and so profound. And so if you were to sum up what you want the ladies to take away from today, and just to activate one thing, what would you tell them?
Well, I want to make sure that I'm clear, because we talked about being faithful and setting our intentions, but I also want to make sure that I'm clear that we also have to do the work. Sometimes we create the vision, we make the intentions, we make the vision boards, but then we sit back and we do the same things that we've always done. And sometimes that's nothing. And so my spiritual folks know faith without works is dead, just like vision and intentions without action will never succeed. So you can't just think of it and then expect it to fall in your lap, because that's not how it works. One, it's up to you to decide to identify the purpose in your pain. Nobody's going to explain it to you and hand it to you on a silver platter. And then once you identify that purpose, then it's up to you to do the work. And sometimes, let me be clear, sometimes the purpose and the clarity doesn't come until we start to take action. And then it becomes revealed along the way. But because we haven't even taken the first step, then we're stuck and we're like, why aren't you talking to me? Why can't I see anything? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, take step one, and then guess what? A little piece is dropped on you. Then take step two, and then another little piece is added to that. And then take step three. Don't focus on step 100. Have the end goal in mind, but focus on what you can do right now. Take that action, no matter how small, because it's actually the small things that we do consistently every day that adds up to the big moments. For example, I was in therapy every single day for weeks up on end, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., weekends and holidays included. All different kinds of therapies. And mind you, again, they didn't know if they would necessarily work, but because I was faithful, because I set my intentions on making a recovery and walking again, I did it anyway, despite it being hard, despite it being painful, despite the uncertainty of if it would even work or not. And I did the work by going to therapy. And because of that, I was able to walk out of the hospital. I mean, it was a little wobble, but I walked nonetheless. Okay. I walked out of the hospital, and I still had to continue to go to therapy after that. But, you know, it hurt a lot. So, for example, I was in shock therapy, which means they connected my body to wires and they literally electrocuted me in small voltages and gradually increased the voltage. Again, they did not know if it would work. Did it feel good? Absolutely not. And especially the higher the power got, the more uncomfortable and slightly painful it was. But I did it because my intentions were clear. I had faith that it was going to work out, and I pressed through. So whenever we have those intentions and whenever we have that faith, whenever the obstacles do arise, whenever it does seem cloudy and stormy around us, we will keep pushing. It makes it easier to keep going. Doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier to keep going, because whenever we're unclear about what it is that we want, whenever we don't have any faith or hope about what it is that we want, then that's whenever it's easy to just throw in the towel and give up and be like, oh, life is hopeless. Ain't no point in doing this. I'm never going to get out of this space. Again, where your focus goes, your energy flows, and fuzzy intentions produce fuzzy results. So be faithful, set your intentions, and then do the work, one step at a time.
And so I love how you talked about do the work. Do the work. Do the work, because and I think that is one of the reasons why we get tripped up, because we think that we can sit here and dream about what it is that we want and it's going to happen, and we get frustrated without, or for me, I know this is what I always would get stuck on. I would look at step 100 and be like, well, how do I get here from step 0 to step 100? I'm like, that's kind of a big jump, and I need to sit here and come up with like the best strategy ever to like get there. I'm gonna work it once I figure it out, but then I would spend so much time trying to figure it out. And it was just amazing how when I shifted my focus to focus on one thing at a time, what am I gonna get done today?
Mm-hmm.
What am I done this month? Where is the Lord? Where did he tell me to go? And it's so funny. Like I would go back to him. I'm like, Lord, what am I supposed to do? And he just like, the thing I told you to do like last week. I was like, but what else? After you do it. But why? Because you haven't done what I already asked you to do. What do you need to know step 3 for? You haven't even done step 1 or 2. And I think sometimes we can get caught up on that because we look for the big wins. But the big are found really in lots of small wins. Like the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks didn't just jump on the field and win a Super Bowl. What did those people do from a time that they were small children? They focused on the foundations. They focused on the basics. And when they did those small things over time, then it put them in a position where they had the skills and the mental fortitude to be able to handle a bigger stage. But there's danger in elevation, and there's danger in that if we get elevated too soon. And sometimes we might want to come out of a period of refinement too early. And we're not all the way refined for the next step. And so I love how you compared that to your therapy. It was painful. It did not feel good. But each and every day that you were there, each and every stage of therapy that you accomplished and that you went through was essential to you being able to walk and not fall down. Like you were able to keep walking and your legs were strong enough for the journey. And I think that when we think about our purpose, we have to make sure that our legs, our backs, our bones, our minds are strong enough for the journey. Because if they're not, we cannot sustain the heights that God has given us. And one of the things that I stopped asking God for is elevation before I was ready. Like I will elevate tomorrow, but I'm like, I want to be able to sustain whatever elevation that He gives me, which means that there's a process and we cannot skip the process. So yes, this is so good. This is so good. So how can the ladies connect with you?
Yes, I actually want to help you guys to take action right now. Look, I'm not about, oh, let's do it next week. Nope. We're going to take action right now. So if you go to Take Action Download, then you can get your complimentary gift. And it's actually an action plan guide, and it'll help you to set up a goal that you're working on and create it in an effective manner that you're actually going to take action on it starting today. So that's takeactiondownload.com is where you can get your free gift. And then girl, connect with me on social media, okay? At Lindsey Vertner. As long as you spell my name right, you will find me across all the platforms: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I'm on it all. So Facebook, Twitter, at Lindsey Vertner is where you can find me. Please do reach out, share this, invite people to this amazing summit that I know that you've poured your heart and soul into, and definitely is meant to be a blessing to so many women. So share this out, share on Facebook, share on whatever social media you like. Be sure to tag me and I will repost and all of those great things as well. I love to hear your feedback, your questions, your insights, and just thank you again for having me.
You're welcome. And ladies, make sure you get your all access replay, because I promise you, you are going to want to go back through this, take notes, post the nuggets that you've gotten, like share, and do not allow this information to be something that you listen to and then collect dust on the shelf. Like, I want you to implement it and take action. Get Lindsey's download. You see where she was and where she is now. There are so many gems and nuggets in what she just said. But faith without works is dead. If you hear this and don't do anything with it, then it's just another motivational thing, right? And so we don't want that for you. We want lives changed because you came to this summit. So get the all access replay, listen to this again so many different times until you internalize it, until these messages become a part of who you are, so you can walk out the purpose that God has for you. Because what we know, according to the Bible, is that before the Lord formed you and put you in your mother's womb, He called you to a purpose, right? He called you. And so sometimes the setbacks and trials that we encounter in life can derail us and cause us to question the purpose that God has for us. But that purpose never went away. We just have to come up from under the pain and the hiding because of the pain, so we can walk new into who He called us to be. But that takes intentionality and that takes faith. It takes belief, right? It takes all of that. And it takes step by step by step, being able to visualize the stuff and walk it out in purpose. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for joining us here today and just pouring into us in this space. I truly appreciate your time. And I look forward to the lives that are changed because of this. And so, ladies, it has been a pleasure to have you join us here today as well. And we will see you over in the next session. All right. Bye.